general get-up. General get-up talks about the appearance of your questionnaire. How does your questionnaire look? Okay? Now, under principles of wording, there are 5 critical aspects that I'm going to cover with you. These are aspects that you've got to take cognizance of in order to design a proper questionnaire. Otherwise, your questionnaire is going to be flawed somewhere or the other. Okay? And in terms of principles of measurement, there are 4 aspects we're going to cover. And in terms of general appearance or get-up, there are 4 aspects. But even after you finished all of that, don't think it's the end. The most crucial aspect is the administration and the testing of goodness of data. That's your validity and your reliability. So only then you're going to know that this questionnaire is ready to go. Okay? Now, I'm going to cover each one of these aspects. They all are critical aspects to your questionnaire design. They all are instrumental in ensuring that you have a questionnaire at the end that is usable, that is going to be valid, that is going to be reliable. Okay? If you have any questions, please ask me at any point in time. These are the tools to questionnaire design. Once I've covered all the different tools with you, I'm going to do an exercise with you to make sure that you are able to apply all these tools that I'm going to cover. Okay? So let's take the very first one, the content and purpose of question. When your questionnaire is designed, you must ask yourself, does every question in my questionnaire have a purpose, and is every question linked to the objectives? If it has no purpose, it shouldn't be there. It's only helping to make your questionnaire longer. And when you have a longer questionnaire, what happens? People just throw it into the bin because it's too long to fill in. Okay? Or the longer your questionnaire, the more items you have that are not directly relevant, then people tend to feel that it's a waste of their time. Alright? So please try and keep your questionnaire as short as possible and ensure that every item in your questionnaire has a distinct purpose. Now when we say purpose, purpose can be divided into 2 ways. A subjective reason as to why you have, where you're tapping into subjective feelings, which is harder, and then objective facts. Now subjective is, for example, if you want people to give you an opinion or feelings about promotional opportunities at an institution. Okay? So promotional opportunities at an institution, which people might feel very strongly about, it might be subjective. The way you tap into these subjective issues are very important. You just cannot ask items straight out. You've got to very diplomatically tap into subjective issues. Objective issues are very easy. Your gender, your age, your marital status, these are facts, okay? If you can't get it from personnel records, then you can just simply ask people on a nominal or ordinal scale. It's very easy, okay? It's the subjective issues that later when we do the exercise, you realize you've got to put more thought into. The second thing is the wording and language. And this is very important. We know that you are masters and doctoral students, but don't word the questionnaire to fit your level. Okay? You're not going to fill the questionnaire. The examiner is not going to be impressed with all the hard words you use in the questionnaire, where someone has to look for the dictionary or ask somebody else, what does this mean? Okay? You've got to set the wording, the language in that questionnaire to the level of intellect of your target market. Okay? Your population, your sample. They are the ones that has to understand the questionnaire. So do not set your questionnaire to your level. Set your questionnaire to the level of understanding of your subjects. So the first thing to take into account is the level of education. Okay? The second thing to take into account we submit our questionnaires or administer our questionnaires, distribute them to people from different cultures. Now, it's very important for you as a researcher to know the culture that you're giving your questionnaire to. Why? Because different words mean different things in different cultures. Okay? Let me give you an example to make this clearer. Some of you would know in 1994 there was an ad that went out by MTN. Okay? Now what MTN had on that ad is, don't test my drawing. Perhaps this shouldn't even be videoed. It's very bad. I would not get this right, so I'm just going to attempt to do it. And then I'll write the word so you know what it's supposed to be, right? It's nothing like it, so it's supposed to be okay. It's very bad, I know. MTN had a flying pig, okay? And at the bottom of it, of course, within the ad, they had a whole lot of things. We're talking 1994. At the bottom of it, they had a cell phone number. I obviously cannot remember it. And that ad went out as a full-page newspaper ad to everybody, the public, to see. When that ad went out, there was a real uproar from the Muslim community. Because what was this ad showing? A pig, which is taboo in the Muslim community, and within the ad, a very sacred symbol of 786. Now, it wasn't a ploy by MTN to do this. They didn't plan this. But with their segment of their market being largely Muslim as well, the clients already being Muslim, it created a hell of a uproar. What would have happened if this ad remained is that clients threatened to pull away all their contracts and to move away from MTN, with the result that the company had to come out, withdraw the ad, and also put in a public apology. What happened? Were they to blame? Partially. They didn't understand their market. They made a gross mistake. All right? And in the end, they had to withdraw it, do another ad that cost a lot, make a public apology, that would have cost a lot as well. And it's all because they didn't understand the terms and idioms relative to the culture of the mixed market that they were targeting. Now that can be very costly. Now, before I end up doing the same thing, I'm going to at least take this part out. Not to offend anyone, but it was just an example. How does this relate to questionnaire design? Very clearly, you've got to understand your market. If you are giving it to a mixed crowd, your pilot study becomes more critical. Because now, if you give your questionnaire out to a sample of the people that are going to be sampled to fill the questionnaire, then you get a sense of this word. No, man, it's not appropriate. It's not right. People will give you feedback. Okay? And many people say, I don't have the time, I have budgetary constraints, I can't do the pilot study. Now here's the pilot study that can help you to make sure that the terms and idioms you've used in your questionnaire are appropriate for your market. Okay? You don't only have to rely on the people that you are going to be giving your questionnaire to. You find that managers have a very good sense of the terms that people use, how they use it, because they have to understand their employees. It's very important for you to get the input from the organization, from critical expertise, to tell you what is the appropriateness of the questionnaire before it goes out to your target market. Okay? So your first thing you take into account is your level of education. Make sure that it meets the literacy level of the subjects and not yours. The second thing is look at the terms and idioms of the culture that you are going to submit your questionnaires to. Make sure that it does not offend in any way. Especially that different words mean different things in different cultures. So be very careful. Your pilot testing will help you in that, and giving out your questionnaires as widely as possible to experts in the field will also help you. Okay? The third aspect to consider is the frame of reference. Right? When we say frame of reference, if in your questionnaire you're using concepts that are not so easy to understand, explain the concept first. Okay? If you're using examples that for that particular study you are doing, make sure that the examples are relevant to the people who are going to fill it in. For example, if you're talking about sport, and if you have perhaps the black or the Indian community who doesn't engage too much in singular sport, like, and you have to use an example, don't use something like bungee jumping. You've got to ask yourself, has this community engaged in this for me to use this example? Maybe a more contact sport, like soccer, might be your example. So, just an example, just make sure that any concepts that are more difficult to understand are defined or explained in a simple way, or if any examples you are using match the frame of reference of the people who are going to be filling that questionnaire. Okay, that's the most important aspects when we look at wording and language. Make sure it fits your target market. Remember, if your literacy level is here and your questionnaire is pitched there, there's no point in doing that field work. You're going to get wrong answers anyway. Okay? So just make sure it matches. The next question.
I have a question. With regards to giving an example within your questionnaire, how can the researcher avoid leading the respondents in a certain way to answer the question, in the sense that the example might actually not ensure objectivity with regards to the answer that's given? How is that done?
The way to avoid leading is coming in form of questions. The way to avoid leading is to ensure that you tie it properly with your principles of measurement, which I'm going to come to. The technique you use to measure is what's going to bring in the objectivity. And if by the time I do measurement you still feel it hasn't addressed your question, please ask me again. Okay? The third aspect that you've got to look at is the type and form of questions. We've got two types there, right? Open-ended questions. Tell me 5 things that keeps you happy in your job. So, you have the liberty of filling in an open-ended thing, right? So you just give 5 things that makes you happy in your job. Tell me 5 things that leads to your job satisfaction. Okay? What are 5 critical job characteristics that you look for in your job? So it's open-ended. You can fill in the 5 that you like. But if you're doing quantitative data analysis, you go more close-ended. Like, I might give you 5 different things in your job, like skill variety, feedback, task significance, task variety. Okay, let's just stop there. And I might tell you rank order, the extent to which these are important to you in your job. Now I'm forcing you to rank it. Let 1 be your most important criteria in your job. Let 4 be your least important. So you will say, oh, feedback is so important to me, task significance is quite important, variety is important, skill variety may be the least. Okay? So at the end of the day, you are forcing a person to respond, forcing them to think which is more important than the other. That is closed-ended. I didn't give you the opportunity to come up with your own items. I have given you the items, and I'm now asking you to record your ranking of it. Okay? So there's a difference between open-ended, which just leaves it open. You can respond at your free will. Closed-ended, where we tie you down to a specific format where you have to respond. Now, yes, there is argument that closed-ended questions are too restrictive. They are limited. You can only respond in a particular way, and that limits you tremendously. That's true. We wouldn't deny that as quantitative analysts, but the open-ended question at the end of your questionnaire must exist if you have a totally closed-ended questionnaire. If you've already directed your whole questionnaire to be tied down, to be closed-ended, have a question at the end that says, is there anything that this questionnaire does not accommodate that you would like to comment on in terms of your level of job satisfaction? Okay? Sometimes you have to tell them in terms of what, otherwise they'll give you their personal history, which you really don't want. Okay? So that's the type of questions. You will choose mostly closed-ended with one open-ended in the end if you're going quantitative data analysis. The most critical part is the form of questions. And in the form, I'm clearly stating it, these are the do-nots. What you do not do. Do we have a...
The mouse. The mouse is in the red.
It's serious. Thanks. Thank you so much. We'll never guess.
I was trying to use the mouse just now to log in.
As long as it's not going to rub off my slides, okay? Kidding. Okay, these are the do-nots. And when you do your questionnaire, you've got to remember these are the critical do-nots. Before you even give it to your supervisors, to the experts to look at your questionnaire, ask yourself, have I put in any of the do-nots? The first do not ask a double-barreled question. A double-barreled question is two questions in one. Okay? To what extent do you believe, here you've got your item, right? And this is going to be the item, and perhaps you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-point scale from strongly disagree, neither agree nor disagree, that's neutral, agree, strongly agree. And you say, to what extent do you agree or disagree that no-name brands are cheaper and better in quality than branded products. Okay? Now remember, you're asking people to respond on a 1 to 5-point scale, whether they disagree or whether they agree in ascending order. And now you have two parts in that item. You're asking them whether no-name brands are cheaper, and you're asking them whether it's better. Now, if I'm the respondent, I might say, yeah, it's cheaper. And I might say, better, perhaps. So what do I do now? 4 plus 2. 6 divided by 2. And then go 3. That 3 now has changed the picture completely. Because I did say it's cheaper. Okay? I didn't think it's better. So now I have to do the calculation in order to give you an answer. That becomes even worse if you make it triple barrel, right? If you make it cheaper, better, and are more attractive. Then, what do you do then? You've got too many items into one. Always ensure that you never ask double, triple, whatever, barrel questions. Always make sure that you are measuring one dimension at a time, one aspect at a time. Even if it means you're breaking up that and splitting it into 2 different items. No-name brands are cheaper than branded products. No-name brands are better in quality than branded products. That makes more sense. Don't do this kind of thing. It confuses your subject. And then you ask, why didn't I get my questionnaires back? Your questionnaire might have confused your subjects. So they threw it away. Alright? So that's not. Do not ask double barrel questions. Put yourself in the shoe of the subject always. Okay? What would you do if you were faced with that kind of item? Do not ask ambiguous questions. At face value, a question might seem to you, oh, it's fine. But when you really look at it, people will interpret it differently. How would you rate the extent to which you are happy? And I pose that to Professor MacArthur. And he says, happy in what sense? My family life? My work life? Both? My quality of life? Happy is ambiguous. Okay? What might be happiness to him also might not be happiness to me. There are different interpretations. We are not being clear in an item like this. Okay? We've got to be specific in what context, how do we define happiness. The measurement has to be very, very clear. So don't be ambiguous. Okay? When last did you go to the library? Or how often do you go to the library? Okay? So what is very often? Very often for him might be once a month. Very often for him might be 3 times a day. So questions like that, how frequently, how often, how seldom. How often do you go to the movies? And someone might say, I go every week. And for me, often might be the last 10 years perhaps. Okay? So it depends on, you've got to define your concepts. Don't leave anything hanging. Don't leave anything only to the interpretation of the subject. But I think you've got the idea. Okay? Do not ask recall-dependent questions. Recall-dependent questions are questions where you have to think back. And you're not necessarily going to think back the right answer. It might be a simple thing, like, when did you first start working at UKZN? And somebody might say, just like that, give you the answer. Another person might say, before the merger, it might have been, and then all the thinking starts. When that thinking starts, there's also the potential of an incorrect answer. Especially for items that you can get from personnel reports. Don't start asking it from recall-dependent questions. Okay? It's most likely you're going to get the wrong answer. You're going to get personnel records giving you an accurate answer. Go with that. Recall-dependent, let's just say the cafeteria needs improvement, right? This is now negatively worded. They are called reverse items. Reverse items